Welcome to the Real View podcast, where Ohio Realtors connect you to innovators and influencers, keeping you with the real view of real estate. Whether you're a broker, agent, first-time homebuyer, industry leader, or just happen to stumble upon our podcast today, you can expect to hear tips, tools, tricks, interesting information, and so much more from the experts in Ohio's real estate game. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Real View podcast. I'm your host, Allison Riley. With us today, she is back for her second episode on the Real View podcast. She is no stranger to the Ohio Realtors community, to the real estate industry as a whole. Mary Lou Butcher-Roth, welcome back to the show.
Oh, thanks, Allison. I'm so excited to be back. It was so much fun the first time, so we'll do that again.
We're going to do it again. And, after we finished recording Mary Lou's last episode that aired right around the holidays, it was around New Year, New You, had to, make the most of your year. I said, we need to have you on regularly because you're so good at what you do. Like I mentioned, you're so beloved in this community. And after your episode was released, I was tracking the analytics and the downloads on the episode. And this had hundreds of downloads. I mean, it was probably one of the top episodes that we've ever done was with you. So no pressure, right? No.
Yeah, no kidding. Thanks, Allison. Okay, I'm ready. I'm sitting up straight and ready to go.
Yeah, no, it'll be great. So I was like, we have to bring you on. And then we talked and we're like, we're going to make this a regular thing. So we're hoping quarterly can bring you onto this show, maybe seasonally. I know this is kind of how it's worked out so far, being seasonal, which works for me. So hopefully we get to have you on a couple times a year, which I think will be great. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. I would love that.
And, we were just chatting too before we started recording. We're going to skip the Real View question since Mary Lou's already been on the show. And if you want to go back and listen to her answer on her best view, you can do that. It is, you should be able to find it in our episode list and on our website. We save all the episodes on there. So go back and check it out to hear her answer to the Real View question.
It's a good view.
Yes, absolutely. But we are here today because it is springtime. The sun is shining. I was just having lunch with my coworkers and I was looking out one of their offices and there were buds on the trees. The birds are chirping. It is springtime, we hope. Fingers crossed. But so much comes along with this season. And what we're going to kind of talk about today is that spring cleaning out the clutter, cleaning out the gunk and the stuffy air and, everything that's been laying around in those winter months when it's hard to really be motivated to do anything. But spring cleaning and clutter, and that's what we're going to get into today. So I'm super excited, and I want to kind of just dive into it. Mary Lou wrote this incredible article in our Ohio Realtors e-zine called Clutter: Cleaning, Clearing, and Celebrating. This e-zine hit a few weeks ago. It should be in everyone's inboxes. If you haven't read it yet, take a look. You can view the full article on there, but we're just going to kind of talk about some of the stuff that Mary Lou highlighted in this and kind of her perspective of this springtime and what it means to take advantage of this time of year. I want to kick it off with, why do we focus on cleaning during the springtime? And what is it about this season that makes it kind of that perfect time that we all get that itch that we need to start focusing on spring cleaning? It's a hard one to answer, right? I don't know.
It is a little bit hard, but yet not. So, and I'm just going to speak for me, then we'll maybe take it a little bit bigger. But for me, I love when I can open up windows and doors, and it's like bringing fresh air into the house. But you identified something too. We're coming out of the winter. We're coming out of that period of time where in this part of the country, not every part of the country, but for us, we're kind of cocooned a little bit. We've got our fireplaces on. We're hopefully curled up with a book and a glass of wine. I mean, that's the season for that. And you do kind of get into that more in space. And then as the trees begin to bloom, as we can, today we're going to be headed to the park to take the dogs for a walk. It's everybody's out, and there is a different kind of excitement that happens in the springtime. And I think we also become a lot more aware of our surroundings. I don't know. It is a really big question. I know for me, I can kind of numb out a little bit in the winter and ignore things like my car. My car is a great example. Okay, it might snow, it might sleet, it might, whatever. And it just seems like in the winter, my car is not nearly as clean as it is in the warmer weather. I don't know.
Yeah. It's like those excuses, you almost find like more reasons to let things go in the winter. Because you're like, oh, it's terrible weather. I had that's so funny you mentioned about your car, because I was driving into the office this morning and I was like, this car is filthy. And then I was like, I really need to, like, when I leave tonight, I really need to go take it through the car wash. But then I'm like, but is it going to be 30 and snowing again? So that's so true. It's almost, for whatever reason, it's almost just easier to let things go in the winter, that if the sun is shining and it's like, 70, 60, 70 degrees out, you're like, this is not acceptable in this weather.
Well, it'll be interesting, though, to see what happens when they mess with the time change and not changing it again.
Yeah.
Is that going to change our perspective?
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe it'll happen sooner. Maybe it'll happen later. I don't know. But it's not just me. I know that this does happen well, obviously, because there is something called spring cleaning, right?
Yep.
People say that.
Yep.
It's time to do my spring cleaning.
Yep. And you're right. It is something about like getting that window open. And I know, we had our first kind of bout of nice weather a couple of weeks ago, and like that opening the window and getting the fresh air in after that stale winter air has been sitting with pet fur and dust and everything for months. There is just something so refreshing and rejuvenating about that it just gives you that little bolt of energy and motivation to say, all right, let's clean this up around here.
Yeah, yeah. And we also have more sunshine.
Yes.
That's another thing. And I think we all feel better with more sunshine.
I know I do. That's 100% true. Yes.
So it appears there are multiple reasons why this happens in the spring, but it does happen.
Yes.
For sure.
Yes. And I think we don't even necessarily realize kind of the impact that clutter has on our life, but it can really affect us. How we sleep, how we focus, our general health. Why is this so important that we kind of put this emphasis on clutter and kind of decluttering? What does that mean for us and our bodies and our brains?
This is not something that I just say. Mm-hmm. This is out there. There's a lot of really, really, really smart people that will tell you that when you've got clutter, you're not functioning to your best. You're not functioning at your best. In, varying degrees with different people, obviously. But they have attributed it to even weight gain. That, okay, there's a lot of clutter. So mentally, there's, I think, part of our brain that just kind of shuts down and tunes it out. Mm-hmm. It's very hard to feel productive when you've got a lot of clutter. Now, we're talking different degrees. Mm-hmm. We can be talking anything from the messy car, which does make me crazy too, mm-hmm. the messy car, to people that really have a problem and have maybe a hoarding kind of issue happening within their homes. And, these have different degrees of how they need to be handled. Because sometimes the hoarding, there's reason there. There's mm-hmm. reason that really does need to be dealt with. But, for the majority of people, I think it's easy to just get into that space of too much stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, and it can be in your brain, it's in your home, in your heart, which we are going to kind of get into all of that too much stuff that exists in our lives and why it exists. I love that you talk about it in your article, why we are so stressed out and we are living in this world where everything's being thrown at you, every second, and information overload. And, we're going through a global pandemic and world crisis issues that we haven't seen the likes of, in years and decades. And it's going to take a toll on us. These are not normal times. We know that. We've been saying that for a while, but it's impacting us and it's affecting our health. And you're here today to tell us a little bit about how we can climb out of that, how we can clean it up, how we can clear it out. Where do we start? I think it's easy. We think of cleaning and it's physical, right? I think maybe that is the best place to start.
Yeah, I think that's a great place to start. And I want you to think about it too from this perspective. Think about how much you, and I'm just going to toss this to you.
Yeah.
How much you bring into your home versus how much goes out.
Wow. I was like, wow. Yeah, that's a lot.
Right? Yeah. And it is for all of us, because I can remember times when I've moved and things will be like, this is so good. I've got things just where I want them, and this is great. And then all of a sudden, oh, wait, I don't have any more space in that closet, or, that kind of thing. We are calling us consumers is like the perfect name, because we consume. We are bringing in, and whether it's food items, look at the whole Costco and buying in bulk. And I mean, there's all these things that create clutter, if you will, in the home. Even if they're well-meaning, still creates the clutter.
Yeah.
So where to start? And this has been something that I have played with for years. We talked on the last podcast, 2 sets of twins, and I can tell you that, quite often my house was not was not exactly organized, but I really wanted it to be. And I remember there was this book. Oh my gosh, this is just coming into my head. It was written by, seriously, they called themselves the Clean Sisters. And their whole thing was start in the basement. Start in the basement because that's where you have stuff. Maybe. I've done it that way. It's been effective. But as I have aged and my time has changed, and I look more now for where I'm going to experience the most relief. So if it is my bathroom, the master bath, perhaps, where, we're girls, we get makeup, we get this, we get a lot of stuff. I mean, and it's getting more as I get older. That might be the place you want to start. Or maybe in the kitchen, if you do enjoy cooking and you are preparing meals on a regular basis, that might be the place to start. But even before that, what I have found to be most effective is literally to take a notebook or a pad or something and walk through your house. What needs to happen? And honestly, while you're doing this, you can also identify, there's that crazy toilet paper holder that just has been broken for months, and I never go in that bathroom. But every time you get to that place of tolerating, you're actually zapping your energy to varying degrees. It's like you numb out. And any place you numb out, you're not fully present. You're not fully alive. So really be careful about those kind of things. So with your notebook, you're walking through the house, you're writing these things down, and not just like if I'm in my office, then I've got lots of drawers. I've got shelves. Break it down that way. Left side of the credenza, right? And it may sound crazy, but if you don't get this down into bite-sized pieces, it will overwhelm. You will hit overwhelm. And when you hit overwhelm, and I don't mean you now, I mean all of us, we tend to just stop. And nothing happens. So getting it down into bite-sized pieces is really critical. Yeah.
This episode of The Real View is brought to you by the Ohio Association of Community Colleges. Ohio's network of community colleges provides accessible training that accommodates the busy lifestyles of aspiring real estate professionals at half the price of a traditional university. With convenient locations in every part of the state, as well as online options, Ohio's community colleges are your smart choice for pre-licensing education. For more details or to start the journey to a real estate career, visit the education page at ohiorealtors.org and then click on the pre-license course locations. Yeah, and you're right. And I think when we think about cleaning and like my closet for me, I'm like, that is my source of stress in life is like, I have got to declutter this closet. I have so many clothes, I haven't worn in 2 years because we've been working from home and not in public. And, I'm like, I've got to get into online shopping, as you mentioned. What are you bringing into your home
Right.
that you're not getting rid of? And I said, well, all I did during COVID was online shop. And I've gotten, new packages every, week coming in, but nothing's coming out. But you mentioned, just breaking it down into little parts and say, okay, maybe I'm going to go through my sweaters today. Maybe I'm going to go through my shorts today. There is a way to do it so that it makes it feel more achievable than just, I have to tackle this closet and it's going to take me my entire Saturday. And who wants to do that? No one wants to be cleaning their entire Saturday. And I love what you mentioned too about the containers. You give kind of a good suggestion, which I really liked, on how we can start kind of doing little things that will add up to the bigger picture in the long run, right? Tell us about these containers.
Yeah, so you want these 3 containers. One is for throwing away. So that can be a garbage can. Great. Mm-hmm. Fantastic. Another is for giving away. And the other is interesting. It's for relocating. Okay, yeah, I need this and I want to keep this, but why is it here?
Yes.
It really could work much better if it were somewhere else. So That's kind of fun. And if you've got the 3 containers, they're right in there. Everything's right in there then. So okay, great. This is going in the trash. Take this to Goodwill and take it, or wherever.
Yes, take it.
Wherever your place where you like to donate. I always say Goodwill, but that's not always where my stuff goes. But do it. And then the relocating, take it. Move it. Get it where it needs to go.
Don't put it in trash bags and then have it sit in your car for 3 months, which is what happens to me when I take things to Goodwill.
I know. I just took some last week, and I'm shamefully in the same place.
Yeah. So that's kind of the physical space and how we can declutter, and how you mentioned a little bit too, how it can make us feel, how we can shut down if things are cluttered. When we clean up physically, it changes our mental health just as much as our physical health, right?
Oh my gosh, absolutely. And one more thing, as you are making your rounds with that notebook, what's your intention for that room? What's your intention for that space? So, if it's an office, it's obviously you want to be productive, right? It's a workspace. If you have a home office, you might have a study where, oh my gosh, this is a place where I want to go to chill. This is where I relax. Plan accordingly then. Or a kitchen. Kitchens need to be efficient, at least for me. Mm-hmm. When kitchen designers come in, they design them that way. Mm-hmm. So that is definitely something you want to look at too with that.
Yeah, I love that approach, thinking of how you want the room to be, setting that vision for yourself so you kind of know what you're working towards. Because how can you know what you want the room to look like without planning it before? So set your intentions. Yeah, set your intentions as you're walking through your home and getting your spring cleaning underway. The next kind of piece of this cleaning and cluttering is the mental piece. Yeah. What is mental clutter?
Oh my gosh. You know what? It's kind of the should space or the could space. It's the place that you're driving down the road and you say, oh my gosh, I need to, or I should be, and you know how I feel about that word should. Mm-hmm. We do not use that word should, but that is still what happens. It would be great if I could da-da-da. Well, it's mental clutter. It's no different than the physical clutter. It's going to accumulate in your brain. There's never a time that you can truly feel complete if you have constantly got this tape going. I've got this great idea, right? These are not bad things. It's not that they're bad things. It's that they're up in your head. They're churning around. So get them out of your head. Mm-hmm. Get your another notebook. I know. I'm all about the notebooks, but get it out of your head and onto paper. Does this now become a project? Or does this, what do you want to do with it? Mm-hmm. And a lot of times when you actually get it written down, you may go back in another few weeks and say, yeah, seemed like a good idea at the time, but it's not. But it's out of your head.
is going to help you stay in that present moment, which is what you kind of talk about with this mental clutter. It deters you from staying in the present. And when you're not living in the present, you can kind of explain kind of what happens when we're not living in this present and how it is a result of this mental clutter. I don't want to give away from your advice and from what you are going to talk about, but tell us what happens when we're not living in the present.
When you're not living in the present, your energy is scattered. So use this right now. If we were having this conversation and I was thinking about, I have to go to the grocery store, or I need to think of this, I need to ask this, or I need to say this. We're not able to be present from that place. And I will tell you that most people live in this space a lot where they're kind of they're out ahead of themselves. Or sometimes they're hanging out in the past. So, being able to stay present will help that mental clutter. Getting things written down will help that mental clutter. Really super important.
Yep, absolutely.
But have the awareness.
Yep. And there are other ways, writing things down. There are definitely, tools and resources out there that can help you with your mental clutter. Meditation, I know you were a big fan of that. You talked about it a little bit on the last podcast. Exercising, moving your body, is always a great way to kind of reset that mental and get that mental clarity. Yeah. And then the next thing that we should pay attention to when we think of spring cleaning is the emotional piece of it. And this was interesting when I was reading your article because I never thought about it as clutter, and I think it's interesting that it can be called emotional clutter. What does that mean and how is it affecting our untidiness in our lives?
Yes. Yeah. So let's think of an example here. So let's say somebody really did something to you that upset you. Could be a week ago, it could be a year ago, but it's something that really hurt your feelings, perhaps. They said something or did something, and you just have never made peace with it. You just kind of hung on to it. It's still there. It's let's call it an emotional incompletion. Mm. And this is not uncommon. Or let's look at something more in the present. So you see somebody and your interpretation of the look on their face, you decide what that means. Well, they must really think what I said was stupid, or maybe they don't like me or whatever. But there's never a conversation about it. So again, it just kind of hangs out there. So these are all those things that are emotional. Now, with the physical and with the mental, they're more kind of action kind of things. These are not as easy to identify.
Mm-hmm. This is a tough one. Yeah, it's tougher. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And I love when you can get yourself to the point that you know what's happening for you at any moment. Mm. This is your ability to be in integrity with yourself. How do I feel right now? At any point, you need to know what your experience is, what you are feeling. And then all of those things aren't going to be happening. So let's go back to, somebody that did something to upset you, whatever that was. Clean it up. It's no different. It needs to be cleaned up just like your closet. Mm-hmm. And maybe you don't want to have a conversation with that person, but get yourself at least to the place where it's not impacting you, where you're able to let it go. Mm-hmm. I think I always am hesitant with the forgiveness part because I don't know that most people really access that or even know what that means. It's a great thought, but it's not easy to do. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Absolutely. And you mentioned kind of some of a little bit of an activity or some phrases that you can mention when you have these check-in moments with yourself. This is great to do during spring cleaning, absolutely. But I think it's also great to do at the end of the day.
Uh-huh.
And I want you to kind of go over this exercise and these phrases that you can say to kind of check in on yourself. And I was reading this, so I was like, that is so good to just check in with yourself, and if you can't do it every day, once a week. Tell us about these exercises and phrases that we can do to help kind of clear out some of this emotional clutter.
Yeah, so there's the three big ones are anger, sadness, and fear. Now, they don't have to be like anger and sadness and teeth chattering fear. No, doesn't have to be like that.
Mm-hmm.
They can be much milder versions. Now, before we go to the actual exercise, there's something really important about the anger. This is another one of those tricky things, another tricky emotion. Anger, a good part of the time, is jacketing, if you will, or kind of covering up either sadness or fear.
Mm-hmm.
And people can get stuck in anger. Look around you.
Yeah. Lots of examples these days.
Lots of examples. We wouldn't have any trouble pulling examples on this. Now, but what's underneath that? Is it sadness? Could it be sadness? Could it be fear? Could it be both? So using this exercise is really helpful. And like you said, you can do it anytime, but it's really important when you are starting to have some emotion that you are aware of, because a lot of times we tend to just numb it out. Just like we tend to numb out the messy car and right? It's the same thing.
Yep.
It's just internal rather than external. So one way that you can do this is how I suggest you do it, by yourself. So not something you want to do with a crowd. When you feel like you've got some quiet space. And I like to move through this. Just walk. You don't have to do anything crazy. But start with, I'm angry that. And just kind of purge. I'm angry that, whatever it is. I'm angry that, whatever it is. Let it come up, let it come up, let it come up until you feel complete with that. Then you can move on to, I'm sad that. Same thing. I'm afraid that. Same thing. Keep it going until you feel complete. And there's something that you can end with that I really like, and that's what I really want is. That's a really lovely way to complete that.
Yeah, because you get to process everything that you're feeling and get it out there and let it be known, what's on your mind. And then ending with that, what do you want, is kind of like, all right, how can I, what am I going to do from here? Where am I going from here? What's the next steps? How can I get through it? So do this internal cleaning, bring it up, let it out as you're doing your spring cleaning, as you're going through every day. I think these questions are great to ask and check in with yourself. And then the last kind of piece is this celebrating. How we've gone through this hard work, right? We've gone through cleaning our physical, we've gone through cleaning our mental, we've gone through cleaning our emotional, and now we get to celebrate. What does that look like?
Oh my gosh, it can look like anything. It could look like a sundae from the ice cream place. It could look like, it's just, how do you validate yourself? How do you celebrate? What does that look like for you? It could be, hey, I'm taking a half a day off and I'm going to the museum. But make it about that, like rewarding yourself. And you can do that along the way.
Yes.
So maybe you set, okay, once I get this part done, then I can do something. Once I get this part done, how do you break this down, all of it, so that it's manageable and honoring to you rather than beating yourself up?
Yes. It doesn't have to be something that you have to feel bad about. That if you need to clean, if there's spring cleaning needs to get done, you don't have to feel bad about it. You can get through it and be proud and have that moment of celebration and feel good. Like you said, feel really good about it.
Yes, absolutely. And one thing that I didn't hit on, and I'll backtrack just a little bit, but it's important. Creating the consistency for this. And it could be any way you want to do it. Maybe you say, I'm taking 10 minutes Monday through Friday, or it could be an hour or two on the weekend. What happens once you get into it, you tend to keep going. But if this is all you have to do, it makes such a big difference.
Yep.
And you're keeping it going. The consistency is critical here.
Yep. Breaking it down into easy things that you know can help you get on that consistency train and help you have success. That's what we want to do. I am ready to, I don't know about you, but I'm ready to go in on my closet. I am ready to go start tearing through that this weekend. I'm going to add that to my projects list.
There you go.
But this has been such a pleasure and so awesome as always, Mary Lou. Thanks for sharing just your perspective and thoughts. It's always so interesting and knowledgeable to hear what you think about certain things and topics and ways we can get better. So I appreciate you being on and sharing this knowledge with us today. I can't wait to have you on again soon.
Thank you. This is always fun. You do such a great job.
So do you. Yes. Always a pleasure talking to you. I always enjoy it. To everyone listening, make sure to check out our e-zine that just dropped. It is the winter 2022 edition, even though we are now going to just put it out there that we're in spring. Check it out now. It is the Ohio Realtors e-zine issue 1, winter 2022. It was sent to your emails and e-connections a couple weeks ago. We have also been posting it on social media, and I will make sure that the link to Mary Lou's article is included in this episode description as well. So all of you guys listening on your podcast player of choice can get that link and read the full article because it's incredible. Mary Lou, thanks again so much for joining us. To all our listeners, thank you guys for tuning in. We'll be back talking to you next week. Bye. Thank you for listening to The Real View. That wraps up today's episode. You can keep up with the latest on the podcast at ohiorealtors.org/therealview and on Apple or Google Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen. Have questions, comments, or suggestions? We want to hear from you. Email us at podcast@ohiorealtors.org. We'll see you next time.